Hi guys, welcome back. We are going to be talking about helpful strategies now that we've covered some of the unhelpful strategies that we tend to take on throughout our lives unintentionally. We're going to move on to looking at positive ways for making small changes in your life that can actually cause a huge ripple effect. So it can be a bit of a transition, and if you recognise things that you can identify with, that is really the first piece of progress, I guess, is identifying that and deciding to set your intention really on moving forward. And once you understand things in a different way, hopefully the way that I'm describing them comes away from some of the cliches, and it helps us to really relate and realise that some of the things that we've been overlooking really have had such an impact, and it's making such a small, simplistic change that can have a huge benefit. So first up, I want to talk about the role of inflammation on our mental health. So it has been shown through independent trials and studies, there is now a link with inflammation and depression. And you can look this up online if you're interested. There can be many medical journals found and articles which give you some supporting evidence. Some of these trials can be quite small. For instance, there's an independent trial that was done on 36 or 37 bipolar patients, and then a control group, so those who had not been diagnosed with a mental health condition, they were being used as a comparison. And what was done was they took samples of the gut bacteria from both of these groups, so the patients who had a diagnosis of bipolar and those who did not have a diagnosis of a mental health condition. And what they found was those in the bipolar patient category had really low or deficient levels of a certain good gut bacteria, or a couple of these certain good gut bacteria, and the control group had these good gut bacteria present. So I guess the conclusion with that study was that there needs to be more research put into this, but also that at this point in time they can't really acknowledge whether the gut health has influenced the mental health, or whether the mental health and the medication which that person might be on is influencing the gut bacteria. But whatever way you want to look at it, it would be worthwhile looking into improving your gut health. So looking at the inflammatory zone, you're looking at things like gluten in the diet, which comes in the form of processed grains, breads, pastas, but also dairy and fried foods, foods that are high in sugar content, and processed chemical foods, which you can guess is pretty regular in our Western diets. So if you learn how to balance this out with more anti-inflammatory foods, so we're looking at things like all of your greens, really good anti-inflammatory sources would be things like pineapple as well, and then your spices such as turmeric, ginger and pepper. These are all very much active in fighting any inflammation that's within your system. And I guess fighting is not a great word to use, because you're working in harmony with your body, and that's what you want to do. You want to supply your body with all of the ways in which you can support that environment to be able to reduce the inflammation and bring forward healing. So this can reduce bloat, it can reduce problems with the bowel, it can reduce problems with your immunity, because most of our immune system relies on our gut health and is produced within our gut. And you're also looking at the brain health, because if your gut is inflamed, you're unable to uptake the nourishment and the nutrients from your food as well as you would be with a soothed and balanced gut. It would be, I would say, beneficial to look at keeping a food diary, and I will attach a PDF of this in which you can print out, and you can start doing this at home if you like. So it would be really beneficial for you to look at reducing the amount of inflammatory foods that you have in your diet and trying to up some of the anti-inflammatories. I love doing this in small ways, like I have green tea, peppermint tea. Peppermint is a really good anti-inflammatory. It really soothes and it helps aid digestion as well. So I find that replacing things like coffees and teas with peppermint and green teas, and also adding more plants into your diet, because they really give life. And a lot of the antioxidants which you find in fruits such as blueberries are great to be added into your breakfast routine as well, and to give you a bit of support in order to flush any inflammation out your system and give your body a chance to rebalance. And you want to look at your morning and nighttime routines, because it's really important how you set yourself up for the day and how to be productive, how to embrace opportunity, and how to feel okay going through your day and interacting with various environments and various people. So your morning routine is really important. Some of us have got caught up in the way. It's so easy to still be in that mode that we were in when we were younger, you know, like a teenager, rolling out your bed, just throwing things together, being in a rush, skipping breakfast, skipping hydration, throwing yourself out into the world and not having really prepared your body and your mind. So first thing in the morning, I have to say, your mind is in a more vulnerable state. I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. You've woken up, you've not had time really to centre and realign your thoughts. You've also not had time to hydrate, and you've not had any movement, and you've probably not had fresh air, because most of us, let's face it, if we live in Scotland, have the windows closed at night as well. So number one thing I like to do first up is to get some light exposure. So that's opening the blinds, opening the curtains, and also opening the windows. Some of us might benefit from staying in bed for like 10, 15, 20 minutes after we wake up, just to start to allow our eyes and our brains to engage with that light and be stimulated into feeling more awake, because that will produce a more hormonal effect on our body and give our brains the chance to wake up. But also hydration. I like to bring a cup of tea into bed and sip at that as well. So there's various reasons why you can be dehydrated, not just naturally dehydrated from having slept for so many hours. Getting some hydration really helps, not only to get any sort of excess inflammation, toxins flushed out, but also to hydrate your brain. Because if you are dehydrated, it has a direct effect on the brain. And if you look at something like alcohol and you look at the science behind it, the reason why we feel drunk is because we're dehydrated, and the nephrons within our kidneys have been tricked into thinking that we need to let go of water, because that's the alcohol effect. It makes our kidneys think, okay guys, you've got too much water in the body, we need to regulate, let's let go of water. So it's constantly tricking your body into thinking it has to flush out water, and you end up dehydrated, and that's why you end up feeling lightheaded, woozy, you lose your inhibitions, you're not really able to concentrate as well, and that all comes with feeling drunk. And dehydration, when you look at it and you compare the feelings of dehydration to the feelings of being drunk, are very similar. And it's eye-opening when you look at that. So looking at it from that point of view makes you realise, do you want to really feel the effects of having alcohol when you're basically just dehydrated? So look into having more clear fluids, things like herbal teas, fruit teas, water. You can have teas, they have lower caffeine content, keeping in mind that caffeine is a diuretic, so it's actually telling your body to let go of more water. A lot of people don't realise this, and they might think they're hydrating themselves throughout the day pretty well because they have lots of cups of coffee, they have lots of cups of tea, but there's no balance there and there's no other fluid intake. And they might not realise that throughout the day they're constantly telling their body to let go of water through urination. But we're also losing water in other ways. We're losing water in ways such as through sweat, through tears, through the menstrual cycle, through the work that our liver and our kidneys are doing to remove any unwanted things from the body, but also things such as our medications. Some of them can be a diuretic effect, or we require more water for our liver to process these medications. And our gut needs water. Our bowel absorbs water in order to help stimulate bowel movements as well. So if you think of the amount that we need on a daily basis, it's usually a lot more than what we realise. So coming away from caffeine is pretty important. Even though I know it's hard, it can be one of the best things that you do to give your body a chance to rebalance. The bad bacteria in our gut actually feed off sugar, and it was put to me in such a way that when we have these needs for sugar and these cravings, a good way to look at it is that is your bad bacteria. It's not your mind wanting that sugar, it's the bad bacteria in your gut actually screaming out to be fed. When you think of it that way, it can be a good way to get perspective, and I guess really to motivate yourself and tell yourself, I don't want to feed this bad bacteria. I want to have good levels of bacteria in my gut, and I want to support my immune system. So if you are having caffeine throughout the day, nicotine throughout the day, and these sugars, then you are really creating an environment that is putting pressure on your bodily systems to thrive. I am aware as well that some might be going to bed really dehydrated because you've drank caffeine throughout the day. You've also had nicotine throughout the day, and that's a toxin, so it can build up within the system, and if you've not got sufficient levels of hydration within your system, that can contribute to feelings of feeling woozy, feeling sick, lack of concentration. And I do know of some people that go to bed with a cup of coffee after smoking nicotine through the day, or vapes with nicotine, and they've not had any fluids whatsoever, as well as just coffees and teas, and they wake up in the morning and their mornings feel like hell, and they're wondering why it's so difficult. For one, you've been dehydrated before you go to bed. For the second reason, you're not giving your body the environment to flush out these toxins. The nicotine has built up, but also the sugars, the effects of sugars, the effects of any other stimulants, the effects of medications, the effects of chemicals within our foods. So not having the hydration to flush that out, having the added nicotine, you've gone to bed for 7-8 hours and you wake up, you are going to feel really dehydrated. You're going to feel brain fog is at quite a high level. In some instances, you can feel quite sick and quite lightheaded. So this is good to keep in mind if you're also someone who has had to have challenges with chronic conditions. So you want to make sure that you are supporting your body in the best ways possible, especially if you already have inflammation within the body because of chronic conditions, and especially if you have to rely on certain medications as well that are going to impact your gut. So you want to make sure that you are loving your body as much as possible, treating your body like you would a small child. If you knew a small child needed certain things to be able to feel well, then you would surely be doing your best and your utmost to supply that to that child. So please support your inner child. And if you're interested in learning about alcohol and the effects that it can have on your body, but also your mental health, there will be a link provided below this video, which is a podcast, and I have interviewed 2 people from around the area really. One is a female who speaks candidly about her journey with her mental health and also her relationship with alcohol and how that had an effect on that, but also speaking with a male and how much harder it seems for those that have grown up within a culture that really supports male masculinity, and the thought of being alcohol free or reducing your alcohol isn't really ever something that's considered. And he talks really candidly about the effects of his mental health. Just to round up this series, More Than Mindfulness,
there might be some other changes that can really cause a ripple effect in your life. And I'm just going to share some of the extra measures that you can take. One of them being your environment. I think it's so important to remember that our environments are extensions of ourselves. Not just our home environment, but looking at things like our car and our working space. So having an environment which is comforting, is welcoming, and is uncluttered really helps reflect what will happen within your mind. Making sure that your bedroom environment is as relaxing as possible. So you're looking at things like having proper blackout curtains or blinds so that helps your brain get into sleep mode, but also having space and being as minimalistic as you possibly can be. It can feel like a huge chore to start with, but bit by bit, day by day, and you will feel good about releasing some of these objects to other people that actually could love them. There might be friends or family members that might feel really chuffed about receiving some of these unwanted items. And having that ability to organise your things, because when your wardrobe, for one, is organised in a way where your stuff is laid out and it's more visible for you, it makes it easier for you to combine garments and make your outfit so that you're going to feel confident in what you're going to dress in for the day. And organisation in any room of the house, having good storage capacity, and really minimising the amount of bottles that you have, trying to reduce things down. I know all of us are thinking more about the environment now, and even just reducing the amount of products that you have that you're using for your skin, for your hair, for your body, and reducing it down to small but mighty. You want to consider making your life more joyful as well, and that's regardless of what's going on. Please be aware that two emotions can coexist. So you could have things going on in the background that is challenging, that is, in a way, it's influencing your vibration to be lowered. But you can also have activities that you are spending time doing, even if it's just short time during the day or once a week, something that uplifts you. So adding more play into your daily life as well, and more laughter and things that are laughter inducing. So even trying out some new things with your family or your friends, or simply just watching more comedy, or choosing to read and be exposed to images and projections that are more light-hearted, and music that is more uplifting and empowering. You also want to look at things like organising your meals. So it really helps to organise and meal plan, and making sure that you just take a small amount of time every week to organise your groceries, and exploring new possibilities and facing small fears. So facing small fears can be really good at building confidence. And these, bit by bit, week by week, once you've faced small fears and you realise that it was either a better outcome than what you thought, it was surprising, or it might have been uncomfortable, but you know what? The world still kept on turning and you got through that and got to the other side. These things can really help to build confidence, and looking at confidence building activities can really help to enhance your life and your well-being as well. Practicing gratitude, we've often heard of. Gratitude and meditation. Meditation can be done in your own way. It needn't be something which is the sort of cliche concept of meditation, where you sit and you have a quiet space and you try and empty your head. It can also be done to frequency music. It could be a guided meditation, a 5-minute meditation through YouTube, Spotify, or any of the apps that you can use. But you can also find that if you haven't managed to find the time within your day, you can have your own forms of meditation when you have time and space, such as when you're in a waiting area, or you're waiting on public transport, or you're in your car. You can have a more conscious commentary going on in your mind in the background about what you're welcoming to your day, what you're grateful for, what you thank the universe for, and what you will be open to and ready to move forward with for any opportunity to heal, let go, forgive, release, and to face small fears on a daily basis. And putting that out there is a form of meditation as well. You can find ways to express yourself. Many people like to do that in the form of journaling, in the form of expression in music, in the form of writing, in the form of dancing and movement. So whatever fits your methods and fits your life, please think about ways in which you can release some of the energy which is stagnant or perhaps might not be good to fester. And you can help shift that energy by practicing ways to express, but remembering equally that once you have expressed, you don't want to wallow in that thought too long. Your life can change at any given time, and your day can change at any given time. So you can stop and reset your day using affirmations at any given time. And I'm going to show you some slides of some of my favourite affirmations which I use either in the morning or before a testing time, before I'm going into a room or going to partake in something that is quite important to me, and I want to feel centered, and I want to feel confident, or I want to feel grounded, or I want to feel that my energy is being protected. So you can take some of these affirmations with you. I like to use them at night time as well, just to kind of reset everything, compartmentalize everything in my mind, to know that there's no urgency. And some of the best short affirmations that I find are really useful for mindset. One is that there is no urgency. There may seem to be an urgency, but many of the things can actually be put aside. Sometimes we're trying to work out a way forward and find solutions in a very quick way. Some of these things may take a bit of time to process, and it's okay to lay them to one side. So allowing yourself to let go of any urgency and prioritise things, and knowing that it's okay to sleep on it, and it's okay to think of it, and it's okay to allow yourself to get through a day or a week and see how you feel by the time you want to make any decisions. And knowing that everything is temporary, that's my next affirmation. Everything is temporary. Now that you know that energy is fluid and it can change, situations can also change. Many of us may feel, if we're dealing with longer term implications such as chronic conditions, illness, mental health challenges, or something in our life or within our family that we feel we can't change and that's more permanent. We can also remember that every stage of something is temporary. So we go through different phases, and the way that you feel and the way that the energy is with a certain situation can also shift in a matter of hours, days, or weeks, or months. And reminding yourself that everything is temporary can allow you to step aside and set yourself apart from that feeling of impossibilities or lack of control or discomfort. Knowing that it's temporary allows you to remind yourself that this will pass. And the last one that I'm going to leave you with is that you are enough. And many of us need to hear this now, because of what we are being subjected to on a daily basis. Some of these perceived expectations, some of the things which could trigger our insecurities, could trigger our need to prove ourselves, to explain ourselves. And that goes for not just the ways in which we have to prove we are enough, but also falling into that zone where we feel that we have to repeat our story to ensure that people know that we are suffering, that what we've gone through is valid, and to allow ourselves to know that we are enough as we are already, and we don't have to keep taking ourselves into these zones in order to prove to others that what we're going through is tough or what we are doing is valid. So please remind yourself of these on a daily basis and help recenter yourself, reset your mind. And talking about your environment, I often find that a change of environment can be exactly what you need when you are in a place of lack of motivation, or you're frustrated, or you feel stuck, or you're just not feeling like you are yourself. You're in a zone that doesn't feel good to be in. Take yourself away from your everyday environment, whether that's going on a walk, whether that's taking yourself a drive and take some time looking in at the situation from that different perspective, and things don't feel as difficult. You will find solutions come more readily, and you'll be ready to go back to that environment in a better headspace and finding ways in which you can communicate better and move forward with solutions. So breath work we're hearing about very regularly now. It's become more mainstream and it definitely has a good purpose. The vagus nerve is something which is very much part of the nervous system, and that decides whether you are going to have a feeling of fight or flight, high cortisol, a feeling of urgency or not. And when you learn to use the breath, you learn to calm the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve being a nerve which leads down to the stomach, and remembering that if we breathe into the diaphragm and the stomach zone, we are stimulating the vagus nerve and helping it to find a state of calm, and in turn that helps our nervous system to recenter. You can practice this through guided apps. There are various methods of breathing techniques now and theories which you can follow. There's Wim Hof, who has brought to the forefront a new style of breathing techniques, but there's also keeping it really simple and making sure that you're focusing on your breath coming in through your nose, down the trachea, into the open spaces in your stomach and abdominal zones, and even around the back area there's space to breathe into, and letting that go, and finding that whenever you're in a situation, before you respond, using the power of breath can help realign. And what you might find is the way that you were going to react before you had that breath is very significantly different to the way that you feel you're going to react after you've taken that breath. So please try and slow down, take the time to breathe before you react, and take the time to breathe before you put yourself into any situations where you feel that you're already in a state of anxiety or stress.